Greetings viewers, Eric the Car Guy, and thanks for tuning in to episode 3 of the front suspension and brake rebuild of my GMT400 truck, which ran from 88 to 98. This is hashtagged ETCG Dad's Truck. I should have prefaced this little mini series within the series by saying that this covers two-wheel drive trucks, not four-wheel drive trucks. They use a different suspension setup on four-wheel drive trucks, but if you want to stick around and be entertained, that's awesome. Keep watching. I have released a full and uninterrupted version of the next two parts of this series, 96 minutes in total, for premium members of my website. That will be linked down in the description. When the next video becomes available to YouTube, it will also be linked in the description along with additional videos in the ETCG Dad's Trucks mini series. But I've done a lot of talking, so why don't we just jump into the action? There's plenty of stuff to cover. We'll catch up at the end. Welcome back, viewers, and once again we are confronted with a parts issue. Now this morning I went through, looks like final assembly is going to happen, and I decided to check the coil springs, and this is what I found. These coil springs are heavy-duty coil springs, which are for, like, say, off-roading, that type of thing, or a vehicle that gets heavy-duty use. This is not the vehicle to put heavy-duty springs into. I want to put springs in that are similar to what I had but new. Now, there's a possibility I could end up with some of those later today. But for me, today is do or die. I've got to have this suspension together. I've got other things to do next week. This truck needs to be off this lift. So I'm going to hedge my bets. I'm going to clean up the old coil springs and do something I really don't want to do but will work, and that is recondition these other coil springs and install those instead. Now I did notice a slight difference in height between the two, so the plan would be that I would install the one with the highest spring height on the driver's side and the other one on the passenger side. In other words, switch sides for the springs to sort of even things out, because when I sit in the truck, that high side will come down a little bit lower. That's my current thinking, so we're going to recondition some coil springs right now. That's the best one yet. Little paint now. I'm going to install the ball joints in the lower control arms now, and for that I'm going to head over to the press. Sometimes you have to take the boots off. Not today. I don't want to press directly on the ball joint, so I'm going to see if I can find something. That might be perfect. There it is. I'm going to do a little bit of silicone spray around the rubber boot of this one to make it go through easier. Oh yeah, should have done that the first time. Second ball joint delivered. So exciting, the first part going back in, the left lower control arm. You were there. Yeah, these bushings. These bushings. I'm gonna go with a little bit of this lubricant on the outside of this. A little extra silicone. I'm going to give this a try. First I'm going to check it. See if everything looks good. Okay. Super slow. It does look like it's moving in the right direction. Yeah, the truck's going off the lift. This is working. That looks like it's ready for a bolt. Is that the short one or the long one? The short one. Almost, but not quite. It's exactly what a lady slipper was made for. Okay, it needs to go in. How do you like it?
Isn't that great?
How do you like it? That means I'm gonna have to do a pitman arm too. Damn it. Because that's loose enough to cause slop. Nice. Yay! The pre-lube seems to be key. Also, this may move around. Well, likely will move around as the suspension articulates. Having this all gooped up is not a bad thing. Yeah, those bushings are no freaking joke, and especially when it's cold. Ooh, that actually felt like real progress. Yeah, I was afraid of that. You could do this with a floor jack too. Sweet. Wasn't that what we were trying to avoid by putting all that silicone in there? Eric, why are you taking your new control arm out? I'll never forgive myself. Wish it went in that easy. My strategy this time is to lube the insides. You can see how these are getting tore up going in. Easier the second time. Okay, I'm good with that. I'm good. All right, moving on. Before I forget, I want to put my bump stops in. This is actually metal. What's gonna rub between stuff is here, where those washers are, come to think of it. Wondering if I should pop those off real quick and make sure that I got ample silicone underneath there. Need a lot more lube here. Given that this is going to be metal to metal contact and likely to have the same type fit as was on the other side, I'm just going to use actual grease for these. Super important you put the washer on the same on both sides. So I'm making sure it points up. Won't know anything with this until it's tightened down, I guess. Yeah, if you don't use all of that, you're doing it wrong. That seemed like super frustrating. It is time to finally install one of our drop spindles. Done. Might as well put this side on also. Just trying to get a rough idea of how much compressed spring I've got to have to fit in here and connect everything up. Because this is the scariest part, and I'm putting this up by my head and I don't like it. But it seems the easiest way to push the control arm up into place once I get the spring in here. But it looks like I need it under 15 inches, like maybe 14 and 3/4 or something like that. I might even have to go down to like, just call it 14 inches. I was able to source some spring insulators, giant rubber O-rings, and the debate right now, and part number. Now I was not able to get new coil springs, so I'm going to reuse my old ones, and I'm putting the short one on the passenger side and I'm putting a long one on the driver's side. I'm trying to figure out if it would be better to glue this up inside the spring pocket if I need to, so it can hold it in place, or glue it to the top of the spring. I'm thinking inside the top of the spring pocket, that way I've got more movement with my spring. We'll see if that works out. I'm just going to use regular RTV to glue it up in there. Yeah, it's not working at all. Apparently there's only a limited amount of time you have to work with by doing it this way. I don't think putting it on the top of the spring is going to make it any better. So I guess just before I insert the spring, I'll stick that up in there and hope it stays long enough for me to get the spring in place. Sort of lock them down in position. I feel like there's a reduced likelihood that there'll be a catastrophic whatevers. More than anything, I think getting this thing in the center of the spring is important. Yeah, take your time with this. Your life may depend on it. Couple more turns and we might have it. Couple more turns for luck and then I'm going for it. I believe this is sticking up too far, and when I try to put it in there, it's hitting up inside. Sigh of relief right there. With that in there, that means that spring has nowhere to go. This is Weird. These ball joints are making it so that this can't move. It's stuck. And I even compress the suspension a little bit. I have a feeling it's because of the extreme angle that is happening here with this. Also, it just doesn't fit inside the opening like I think it should. There's this big gap right there where you see the light coming through. So that ball joint's just not sitting in there properly. And I have a feeling that that's why this is not sitting in there correctly. So it just doesn't look correct. And I've actually checked with 2 different parts places and they both gave me the same part number. So this is the part number for this truck, what is available, but it does not fit. Remember these guys? While I'm waiting for some parts to show up, let's reinstall the slide pins. Before I do, I'm gonna lube the interior of where they go with some silicone paste. Like my silicone paste, it's not all goopy and weird. Silicone spray is my friend. Boop. Done. It's almost like it's just defying me. I don't feel like it. I don't want to sit all the way down on there. Guess that's as far down as that one's going. Thank you, Shane in Alaska. You are awesome. Let's try these TRW ball joints, which are significantly different. Right off the bat, it fits better. They don't have that giant gap. If this doesn't solve it, then maybe we got to blame the spindle. Dang it. Same problem. I like these TRW ball joints better, hands down, but I can't blame the ball joints in this case. It's the spindle. Here's the old spindle. You can see how it doesn't stick up like this one does here to come in contact with that upper control arm. And that's what's happening. The spindle is just coming around and binding with the upper control arm. It probably wouldn't do that with the suspension compressed and it on the ground, but at full drop, yeah. It does make contact there, and it would probably beat the ever-living snot out of this whole ridge here on the upper control arm, eventually over time. Hi everyone, and welcome to my cluster. I just happen to have a set of upper control arms that I originally got for this build. They were kind of expensive, but they're for lowered vehicles. And I thought, well, if I don't need them, I won't use them, and I wasn't going to use them. But given the issues that I'm having now, this may be my only solution. Oh, well look at that. I ended up with 2 sets. Don't know how that happened, but I only need 1. Let's take off the other control arms, install these control arms, and, well, see if we can turn the spindle around. By the way, here's the part number. I got these from Summit Racing. Well, this will necessitate removing this upper control arm, replacing it with the new one. One thing they say in the instructions of these control arms is to check and see, or if you have to, drill a hole through the Zerk fitting down through the bushing so that the grease, when you inject it, will get all the way down to that metal sleeve on the inside. I wasn't worried about this, but I am now. No way. It's never going to come down that far. Did I get the wrong side on here? Yes, that is correct. I did it wrong. Some silicone and I'll be back. That's as far down as that goes. I've got the original control arm back up on there. It appears to me making contact here. I'm not really inclined to do any machining off of the edge of this. I believe this provides some structural integrity. Therefore, I'm going to go for this. This is just a solid hunk of steel. So if I just cut out a little area here for this to work, I'm hoping it works. So, if you're installing McGaffey's drop spindles, you gotta machine that if you're using original control arms. It's there. Yeah. Seriously, what is up with that? I'm gonna have to take that out too. It's just gonna have to happen. Dang it! Every flippin' turn. Literally. Well, I did it. Lots of die grinding. But granted, this is all at full drop, but say I go up over, I get all Dukes of Hazzard and I jump something. This is at full drop and it's at this location. So what happens? Well, this is gonna bend or something and it won't be good. But now I know at full drop, no matter what, I got clearance. So, McGaffey's drop spindles need modification with stock upper control arms. I want my records back! It's like grabbing on as it's coming down. No, I don't want to go. I want my records back. I'm going to do a preemptive strike before it's ever on the car. One of the ball joints is the same on the other side, on both sides, and I like these better. Just got another ½ inch to go. Less confident this time. I gotta reposition. Stay back, Brian. Okay. So close. Just a little more in here. This is all good though. Really? Now you're hitting up there. Found this pitman arm to be a little bit loose, like after the fact. So I got a new one and I'm gonna change it out. I wasn't originally intending to, but any slop in the steering down here, this little bit, equates to a lot at the steering wheel. First, gonna remove the nut. Then I'm gonna use what's called a pitman arm puller. I got this cheap one since, you know. It would seem like a good idea to also do the seal at this time, but I don't have one. You'll notice there are master splines in here. You've got to match those up with the splines on the shaft here. That's not moving at all. Now for our new idler arm. Gotta be careful not to lose these bolts inside the frame. Install these grease fittings now, because I don't know if they'll be as easy to access once the center link is in there. Yeah, there it is. And then same on the pitman arm. Well, it's just gonna have to be like that. Just gonna have to go up in and over. So these are tapered, so they only go on one way. If I can get this to move over here, I can probably get that on there, because otherwise I remember I took this whole idler arm and everything off. Rather not do that. So I'm gonna see if I can turn the steering wheel and get this to a place where I can install it. Dagnabbit. Hang on a minute. I realize I just made a mistake, and I will correct it before the end of the video. But I leave these types of things in the video for two reasons. One, to show that I'm human and I make mistakes, but two, to show you the potential for making the mistake that I just made so you can avoid it yourself. So in a way, I follow my sword so you don't have to. You're welcome. Maybe we can get away with just loosening it. Yep, that worked. Sometimes you don't have to screw them all the way in. I've broken them off in there before, and then you're like, You see the advantage to doing this down here, or doing this now without steering linkage connected. We're needing one inner and one outer. One is left-hand thread too. This one's the inner. How can I tell? Zerk fitting on the end. The outers have Zerk fittings there. So that's how you tell the difference between inner and outer. I'm gonna put a little bit of oil on these threads so they go in easier. Let's start on the right side, 16 3/4. Trying to make it so I have an even number of both threads engaged inside of this center sleeve. I can't remember if it was center to center. Yeah, this is gonna get a lot shorter. It looks like I could just a couple of turns in, but I'm just about at 16 3/4. Yeah, we've reached the limit anyway. A little more. That looks pretty darn close to 17 1/4. And it's evenly spaced on the inside, so that's done. Designed never to come off. Welcome back, viewers. For you, it's only been a couple of seconds, but for us, that's me and cameraman Brian, it's been actually a little over a week. But that said, I'm looking over the footage that you just saw and said, hey, wait a minute. And you were probably screaming at the screen, Eric, you're not measuring those in the same way you did when you took them apart. You're correct. So I'm going to do that now and get these to the correct measurements. And then we will finish putting this truck together and get it on the ground, see what it looks like. Because, gosh darn it, that's what I want to happen. I'm not sure what I did or where I measured before, but what I measured originally was from this edge on the top of the inner tie rod like this to the top of the Zerk fitting is how I measured it. And I need one side to be 16.75, and this one right now is looking like it's only 16, it's less than 16 and a quarter. So we gotta bump that up to 16 and 3/4. I'm calling that good. I can't seem to get it exact, but you know, it likely wasn't exact to start with. And this one has to go all the way out to 17 and a quarter. Got a little ways to go. There we go. Switching gears on you. I'm going to leave those tie rods alone for the moment, and I'm going to move to the stabilizer bar because I believe it will be easier to install now. The kit that I got from Summit with all the bushings came with new end links and everything. We'll set these aside for the moment. We'll get these body attachments, and job one, and I didn't realize these were split, but they're split. Job one would be to coat the inside of this with silicone. Now, I ran out of the silicone that they supplied me. These also have provisions to lube them up in the future because they know they'll be noisy. I also have special silicone grease for this. But I will start by taking my existing silicone paste and coating the inside liberally. And the same to the other side. My silicone paste, by the way. Links in the description, parts, tools, all that stuff. It's easy to see since I'm reusing my stabilizer bar that the witness marks say that this used to live right here. So that's where it's going to go. Yep, that's right. I just made another mistake. But I left it in the video for the same reasons I just outlined in the last commentary. So rest assured it will be corrected before the end of the video and all will be well. Thank you. Have a nice day. No squeaking. Gonna change directions on you a little bit again and install these shocks. It's gonna be a lot easier to access without the end links in a way, so I'm gonna install these now before I install the end links. Come with bushings, will need to be installed before they go up on the truck. I keep calling it a car. Why? Why, Eric, why? I have to check the instructions because there's two different types of bushings here. I gotta figure out who goes where. I'm gonna guess, wager, that one, like that. And then this one goes on top like this, and then this goes on like this, I think. Let's look at instructions. A lot of these instructions are in German, and they're kind of misleading. They say, look for the type of shock absorber that you have, and then they give all these listings of letter assignments and things, and sort of figure this is an SA, given its configuration. But then you come over to here, and like all the types are numbers. They have nothing to do with any kind of letters. All they do is offer a bunch of pictures. To me, I'm saying no thanks. And I've decided this is dark colored washer on the bottom, the thickest bushing also on the bottom. Then when I come in through the top, there's this indentation which I'm going to point down towards here, center it a bit. And then the top washer is either going to go on like this or like this. Most likely, I'm not sure. I'll try to go for like this, and then a nut on top like that. So this is the configuration I'm installing it in. I could be wrong, but this is how I'm doing it. Right up through the center of that spring. It's nice to see some color in here. All this black. Now we finally have a little bit of yellow. Put a sticker on your vehicle. Bilstein. Small washer, big washer facing in, bushing. I take the first one and put it pointing inward like this. In fact, I like around the bar to make all my bushings, the lips, to point in towards stuff. So the flat side is always touching a washer. That's probably the easiest way to remember it. It's flat side touching a washer. In through the top. Bushing. Another washer. This washer's going to face this way. Then there's my sleeve. Another washer facing down towards that way. And then bushing facing in like this. Down through the hole in the control arm. Then another bushing. Another washer. Well, for this last washer, I'm probably gonna have to run it down a little bit before it gets there. Sweet. Other side is a repeat of what you just did. Pushing, washer, smaller washer, and a nut. And then that happens at least once. At least once. What's nice about these neoprene bushings is that they don't compress like rubber bushings. That's what's nice about them. So it makes this a little more challenging. Now when you run these down, I just watch for the bushings to start to compress and then I stop. There's a lock nut on here. It's not really going anywhere, and you don't want to run them down so much you pretty much split the bushings. So there's a nice balance. A little bit of squish, you're good. That looks good to me. I can always go back and add more later. I'm super excited to be installing these tie rod ends finally. They were hard won for sure. And this is why I put the stabilizer bar stuff in first. Oh, maybe if I installed it correctly, which would be like this, it would work. That makes a lot more sense. That is a big one. And this one has to come through like this. Why does that hit there? It appears I have my center link in incorrectly. It's not allowing these tie rod ends to sit properly. In fact, you can see it's coming into contact with the stabilizer bar, so I am wrong in how this is hooked up. What I need to do is go in to my center link and get this flipped around the other way. So this can only go on one way, in the same way a lot of these components are designed. So I'll have to take this off of here, flip it around, and then try again, because this will be out here instead. And hopefully that will make it so we can steer this truck. I feel pretty good about reusing these cotter pins. Why did that just spin off of there and not feel like it was tight? It'd be great if the stabilizer bar wasn't here. I'm gonna have to drop the idler arm down. That was enough. Last thing I want to do is lose these bolts in the frame. If all I got to do is loosen it, I'm good with that. So long as the bolts, I don't have to go looking for them. That should be how it goes together. Let's try this again, shall we? If you go through the front like that, you get the short one, And then, I did this wrong. Through here first. Now that at least looks like something that can work. Forgot to install the Zerk fitting on my idler arm. I'm going to snug down the lockdowns for the tie rods, just snug them down, and I'm going to lubricate everything now that we got Zerk fittings everywhere. I'll sort out the alignment in a bit, but if nothing else, these can get held down so they're not flopping around. Let's put some lube in it. This was a Lock and Lube that Lock and Lube sent me. Hopefully it'll work out. I have grease in here. Fine. All right, I need to replace the cartridge. You don't need to watch that. All right, let's try this again. This time with grease. All right, the boot started to move. I'm done. Don't want to over-grease it. That's the problem I have with Lock and Lube before. If it doesn't get on there right, it ain't right. I'm gonna have to steer the wheel from side to side to get those. But we can get these other ones. Whoa. It's starting to bulge out the metal. No, we don't want that. I have another gun filled just with silicone. Oh yeah, that's gonna be great for lubing those up. That worked really good. Weird. Viewers, that's a wrap on part one of the second half of the front suspension and front brake rebuild on the GMT400, which ran from 88 to 98. And I should specify, and I should have specified this at the beginning, this is two-wheel drive, not four-wheel drive. That said, there is a full version of the second half of this video available to premium members of my website. There's a link to that down in the description. Otherwise, you can wait till next week and I will be posting that on YouTube. And once that video is posted, a link to that video will be right there at the top of the description for you to go and watch the second part of this so you can enjoy all the information. Now, as stated earlier, I did leave the mistakes in the video because, well, as I said, I'm human. But also, I figure if I make a mistake and you see it and it sticks in your mind, you think, Eric the Car Guy's an idiot. Well, when you're going to do this work yourself, if you do this work yourself, you're going to remember the idiot thing that Eric the Car Guy did and avoid it. To me, that's job done. So even my mistakes, I think, have value to you, the viewers. At least I hope they do. If nothing else, they give you fodder for the comments and just have fun with it. Otherwise, I hope you found this information useful. Links to parts, tools, additional information. Speaking of parts, I want to give a shout out to Summit Racing and also Smythe Automotive for helping out with some of those parts for this build in this truck. So thanks guys, you're awesome. Once again, links in the description to that stuff so you can go directly there and not have to spend hours and hours looking for the right parts. You're welcome. If you have automotive questions, I ask that you head to EricTheCarGuy.com. There will be a link to that in the description as well. Please like, comment, subscribe. I really appreciate that stuff. Be safe, have fun, stay dirty, and I will see you next time. Sooner or later, this truck will run. In fact, by the end of the next video, we'll go for a drive. How's that?